Perfect. Thank you. Sorry about that.
Okay, so I'll read the preamble very briefly, and then we can kick off. So good evening, everyone. My name is Brian Negley, and I'm the chair of the Central Beaverton NAC. So welcome, everyone. Just to again reiterate the purpose of the CBNAC, I'll give a short preamble. The purpose of the CBNAC is to act in an advisory role to the Council and Administration of the City of Beaverton on matters of importance to the CBNAC or the city, and to provide a forum for the involvement and participation for the greatest number of citizens. There are no dues or fees for the NAC membership, and anyone who lives, works, owns property, or represents a nonprofit within the NAC border is a member. The CBNAC's activities are civic and educational. Some of its goals are to bring about maximum exposure of ideas and plans that are formulated for Central Beaverton, such as development proposals or other land use issues, and to provide opportunities for input to the city through such avenues as the mayor, city council, city commissions, and the staff of the city of Beaverton. The city of Beaverton has a matching grant program that we utilize to fund some of our community activities. If you have an agenda item that you would like to have added to our next meeting, have any questions about the NAC, or have an idea for a community event or project idea, please either see me after the adjournment or the meeting, or you can email me as well. And my email, I believe, is posted, and if not, I'm happy to put it in the chat. Okay, so with that, let's kick off. So I think we're waiting for a few people. So tonight's question: with spring around the corner, and I know it was rainy today, but the sun's back out before it sets. What's your favorite place to go within a short distance? So like within a couple of hours of the city that you like to go to, maybe for a day trip or an overnight trip. All right, and I'm looking at Franziska, so I'll start with you.
My name is Franziska, and I'm the staff liaison to this lovely NAC. And I think the place that myself and my husband and my kids end up going to the most for day trips or overnight trips is Oceanside on the Oregon coast. There's a really lovely beach down there, Neatarts Bay, some great hiking. And if you go down to Oceanside, there's even a little kind of tunnel that takes you to a further beach on the other side, which is pretty cool. If you head down there, definitely go to Rosanna's for dinner.
Ooh. I'll jump in. I'll ditto that. That's our favorite place as well. In fact, I was just telling Franziska, we bought an RV. We just came back, and that's where we went over the weekend. We took the RV and we stayed out there. Yeah, I really like it out there. Okay, Officer Bowen. Hello.
I would agree with the beach. Sorry, I was on mute. I would agree with the beach. Generally, we go to the northern Oregon coast, so anywhere from Manzanita up to Astoria.
Nice.
Am I
Yeah,
getting
Mr. Vaughn, I think you might be in and out of Wi-Fi.
Am I getting out?
You're on and off.
See if that helps.
That's better. Yeah. Okay. All right. So we've got a coastal theme. I'm just going to run across Stephen Sparks.
Well, there's so many places I do like to go. They usually involves hiking. So I will say the gorge is, a standby favorite. But this time of year, I really like doing the Silver Falls hike because the water is pumping over those falls right now. That's a lot of fun. To go stand behind the water and just sense the power of, with the noise and, everything. It's a lot of fun.
Sounds great. Okay. Rachel?
Hey everyone, this is Rachel Phillip, Vice Chair of this NAC. I would say Silver Falls has been on our list of places we want to go for a while. So I'll say I aspire to go there at some point soon. As far as places we want to go or we do go, I can't really think of anything at the moment that we tend to go to. Yeah.
Fair enough. All right. Who we got next? Jonathan?
Hello, I'm Jonathan Todd-Kourlas, board member and BCCI rep. Too many to choose from, but I think the Tillamook Forest, anywhere on the Wilson River Trail, is pretty great.
Sounds nice. All right. Amanda.
Hi, Amanda Clark, recorder for the Central Beaverton NAC and community engagement manager for the Beaverton Civic Theater. And I 100% second Silver Falls about this time. And my other thing is I'm a big hiker, so I like to go on the different wildflower hikes because they're blooming in around April. Usually April is when they're in full bloom. So checking out and seeing where there's a lot of them coming up and then planning hikes accordingly.
Okay. So we've got the ocean and Silver Falls kind of running neck and neck, I think. All right. Lulu?
I love that everybody's also stealing my thoughts. So for sure, it's always great to go and see the 4 different seasons, winter, fall. So yeah, we gotta go do that. And anything that's between Nescoen and Manzanita on the coast, it's always amazing to feel the change in the air for springtime. So I'm with you all.
All right, sounds good. Tom?
Don't get out as much at the moment. When we do, we like to go to visit a friend of ours farm out just outside of Hood River. But if it was on my own, definitely the Forlorn Lakes area of Gifford Pinchot National Forest. It is just, it's amazing. Get out a little further into the dispersed camping, and it's good stuff. Plus volcanoes. I mean, gotta love volcanoes.
Interesting. Don't know that one. Okay. Brian Decker.
Hi. Yeah, thanks for inviting me. I'm as a guest. I'm actually in the Highland NAC, so not too far from you all. But I gotta go with anywhere on Mount Hood or vicinity that has a nice cabin with a fireplace, and it's rainy or snowy outside, and you can just cozy up by the fire. That's my favorite place to go.
All righty. Let's see. Fran, I think Fran, you're on mute. I think so. You're Schiffler Park. She's Schiffler Park. Okay. Who do we got next? I'm just going to keep reading over. Ed, if you're there.
Yeah, hi everyone. I tuned in a little late. I'm having dinner, so I'm trying to keep my camera off. You guys had a question or a prompt?
Yeah, it was just an opening. Yeah, like, where's your favorite place to go, especially now that it's spring? Say within an hour or two of the city, or just a getaway.
Wind River has a little campground next to the river, and there's some hot springs up there. It's about an hour away, and it's one of those hip camps. So it's a good spot if you can get in.
Nice. Okay. Who have we not got? Liz, are you there?
I am. Hi, thank you for having me tonight. Let's see. My favorite spot to go to often. We go often to the gorge also, Hood River specifically. And there are some kind of local hikes we like to do there, and sometimes just walk in the neighborhoods too, because you can see 2 mountains for, virtually anywhere you are really in the valley. So we've been enjoying our time out there.
Nice.
Thank you.
All right, and to throw in the chat, we've got some Highland Park. Kevin, you're Highland Park. Amanda, you gave another +1 for Highland Park. 3, and then Brian echoed Highland Park. So if we stay in closer, I guess Highland Park, Forest Park ranks highly as well. Yeah. Kevin, did you want to say anything?
Yeah, sure. Hey, everybody, I'm Kevin. I'm the Executive Director of the Beaverton Downtown Association. I actually live in the Vos neighborhood, but I am a member of this board due to my work. Favorite place to go just for a little quick getaway, probably Nescoin Beach area. That's actually where my fiance and I are getting married at the end of May.
Oh, wow.
At a little cove, just like
congratulations
up the street. Yeah, so it'll be pretty awesome.
Wow, great.
Yeah.
Oh, really, congratulations.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah.
All right. John?
Yes, John Duggar. I almost said vice chair. I'm not vice chair, board member. And this is Odin, who is needing a lot of attention. I was actually thinking lots of good places I like to go. Honestly, Tryon Creek right here in Southwest Portland, just because they have lots of trails, and I take this guy hiking with me. He likes to sniff around and smell the bushes and pee on everything, huh?
Yeah. All righty. Who else have we got? Peter?
Hey, Peter Swinton, THPRD. A place that I love to get out in is Recuerdo Park, which is in Beaverton. It's one of THPRD's parks. It's a really beautiful space that has a natural area and community garden. If you haven't checked it out, definitely one that's worth a visit.
All right. Leanna?
Hi, yeah, I'm not Gary. That's who I logged in as apparently on accident, but I am Liana. With THPRD, I actually just love to go out in my backyard. A garden that I love very much, and every seed that actually comes up for me is a miracle. So just celebrating that right now. Thank you.
All right, great. I think I'll take a quick look. I think we covered everyone that's on camera. All right, well, thanks for the thoughts. I actually wrote some of those down. I think as a lot of you know, my wife and I are still relatively new here, so there were some good ideas shared, so thanks for that. Okay, so with that, I'll kick it off, change the order up a little bit. So Lulu, if you're ready, and if you've got some stuff that you'd like to share, please do.
Hello, everybody. LulúBallesteros from THPRD. I got tons to share today. We're hiring, first and foremost. We have opportunities available. We're very focused on aquatics, lifeguards, gymnastic, teachers, that kind of thing. As you know, I think I've shared it before, our swim classes have been greatly reduced due to the staffing shortages. So we need people with aquatics experience or that they want to start a career in that. So please spread the word. Summer registration opened last Saturday, and it opened today for out-of-district patrons as well. Also, we're prepping for spring and for summer, so you will see a lot of servicing on athletic fields. We're going to be inspecting playgrounds, mowing, clearing out certain spaces, getting debris from here and there cleaned up. So everything's going to be ready for that outdoor time. Then HMT Trail, we completed work there, resurfacing the soft surface in the trail in the North Forest part of HMT complex with hard packed gravel. So we'll make it a drier experience when you're walking through there. Then Tualatin Hills Nature Park, it hits the second and hopefully the last final sewer construction season at the nature park. And it will be picking up again in mid-April. Conestoga opened up today as well. The pool reopened. People are very excited. We have a new deck, handrails, 88 lifts. You'll see new coats of painting here and there, new lights in the ceiling inside the pool as well. Also, there's a new addition. Visitors have new spaces, changing rooms, and it's created a more radiant floor connection between the pool and those changing rooms. And we're gonna have a new pool slide coming soon. Also expanding restroom access. THPRD and Washington County were awarded coronavirus state recovery fund grants. So far we have 3 spaces that we're thinking about. It's at Hazeldale Park, Scheffler Park, and Greenway Park. AM Kennedy is also in the mix. It might be identified as a possible alternative. The final locations, of course, are determined through a planning and evaluation process, and look for us for that public engagement piece that we're gonna start this spring. Then we have free aquatics trainings ongoing and that have passed. Aquatic staff have been training lifeguards and junior lifeguards to support us in our pools. Also, we have our RISE program. It offers youth volunteer experiences. Youth receive either an introduction to volunteering, if they are looking for supporting communication skills and leadership skills, being coached in a safe environment. This is a great experience for them to sign up, and it's for 13 years old and older. Also, our preschool registration has opened for our 9-month preschool throughout all the district. We also have events. They're starting egg hunts. We have one at Conestoga on April 9th and another one at Cedar Hills on April 16th. And later today, you're gonna hear more about the downtown Beaverton parks and open space planning. We have some folks here that will share more about that. And that's what we have for you all.
Great, thank you. Any questions for Lulu? Anyone? That was a lot.
I'll go ahead and give all of our panelists permission to talk so that if they do have, I mean, all of our guests, I should say, permission to talk. So if they do have questions, they can ask them.
Okay. So I'll ask again, any questions for Lulu? Anyone? I got one in the chat from Nathan. Question about the preschool. What age does the preschool program start?
Ooh, that's a great question. Let me look it up. I don't have it off the top of my head.
Okay, I'm gonna close my door.
Going online. Age limitations. Cannot find it. If you give
You
me
need some time, Lulu. If you need some time, you can put it in the chat.
yes,
later.
on the chat, I'll put it.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. Any other questions for Lulu? Okay, super. Yeah, go ahead and stick that in the chat when you find it, Lulu. Thank you. So we'll move on to the, do we have a Tualatin Valley Fire and Rescue rep tonight?
Doesn't look like it. They must be out doing what they do.
Doing what they do.
Yeah.
Well, it's good they're doing it then. Okay.
Yeah. So I know that he was excited to come this month, and I did send him a panelist invite.
Right. Okay.
Maybe next month.
All right. Well, when they come, we'll be happy to listen to them. Okay. So we'll move on then. Officer Bowen, if you're still there, and if you've got an update.
I am. I tried to pull up statistics, and the only thing that was posted was stuff from February, so that hasn't been updated yet. Okay. At least I had sent that last month, so you guys should already have it. And then I did some digging and asking around with the traffic officers. I understand there's some questions about the recent fatal crash. Right. So if people want to ask, I'll answer what I can. I also put together some a PDF with some map images of the downtown kind of core area that I sent to Franziska, so she can post those or put them up so that everyone can see them.
Right. So we did want to talk about the hit and run incident and then those intersections. But maybe before we get to that, is there anything just maybe anecdotally that you want to discuss or share, Officer Bowen, about statistics aside, anything that sort of resonates in your mind? Or if not, we can just.
No, I know our staffing is starting to get a little light. We have 6 new hires that are just starting training. We've got a numerous number of applicants there or recruits that are still in training. And then we're projecting 3 to 5 potential vacancies in the next maybe like 5 months that we need to hire for as well. So with all that being said, once we hire somebody between the in-house academy, the state academy, and then their field training process, it's about a good year before they're on their own. So it can take us a little while to get extra bodies back into patrol and on the streets, which can affect some of our call times and how we prioritize, the calls that are holding. But aside from that, it's kind of business as usual for us and just dealing with what comes in the call queues as we get them. So.
Okay. John, you had a question?
Yeah, good to see you, Officer Bowen. Do you know has there been any indication from Washington County Sheriff when they're going to open the jail fully back to kind of pre-COVID status?
They have just started allowing us to lodge people on warrants and other like crimes that we've developed probable cause for. We're trying to manage that as best we can so we don't just flood them with custodies, because there's people out there with numerous warrants that just haven't shown up. Obviously, we'll take the warrants first, and then the new probable cause custodies will kind of evaluate and see what's the best fit, whether we issue a citation or lodge someone. And often that'll depend on that person's impact to the community at that time. Any risks that they pose for the potential for future crimes and those kind of things. But it's a management issue for us and figuring out what's the best avenue as they open up.
Cool. Thank you.
And I just want to hop in here really quick and say I know that through email communications, I was trying to source staff to attend tonight's meeting to discuss, what happened at the intersection, the loop, all of the things that you all wanted to discuss. And that is still in the works. The interim CSE Community Services and Engagement Director, Dan Weinmeier, has just asked for a little bit more time so that he can send the best staff person to be well equipped to have a really meaningful and engaging discussion and hopefully come with something substantive to bring to you all. So he has every intention of that taking place next month. So just wanted to let you all know that.
So we think we'll get a city staff member.
Yeah, you'll definitely have city staff aside from me, but it's just a matter of who they were trying to see. Is it the CDD director? Is it who would be best suited to come and have the discussion, especially based on what specifically it is you're looking to talk about. So I know that Brian opened up a space tonight to have some, I guess, preliminary discussions. So I'll be taking notes on the things that you would like me to take back so that there can be a really intentional conversation.
Okay, right. Okay, so why don't we talk about that, because there was an exchange after so last meeting we had the transportation loop folks come give us a presentation. They presented their stuff. We had a lot of questions, and I think one area that we kind of felt was maybe a little bit lacking, for lack of better terms, was maybe the discussion of what to do, of the solution of the intersections, maybe the actual solution itself, and then the timing, and then that was exacerbated by the hit and run incident. And hit and run incident was, I believe it was March 15th. Tom, go ahead. You have a question?
Yeah, just actually to interject, I'm on the community committee for the Loop project. I just want to say they gave a kind of condensed presentation. When we saw a larger presentation, they did include some planning of potential work to the intersections. It's still, they know it's a work in progress, but
Yeah.
they have, I mean, they are taking it under consideration. I just want to let the group know that what they showed us is not, they're not being negligent in this. They just didn't share the full, their presentation was focused on one aspect right now. So
Yeah, fair enough.
just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah, sure, fair enough. I actually thought it was addressed. Well, I'll just stop there. I mean, how do we feel after the presentation last time and then the incident, and then Rachel, please feel free to interject and talk about the letter that you wrote and any reaction that you've had to the letter. That's fair game. So just see where we're at. John, go ahead.
Trying to figure out the best way to say this, but I'm really, really angry right now. And I hope you all are too. We lost a neighbor. Like, it could have been anyone in this meeting. It could have been anyone in this room. They were murdered, you know, maybe not intentionally. I don't know. I haven't seen the report, but we allowed it to happen by having really crappy design in our streets and by really negligently being passive when we're told to wait our turn. When we talk about patient or pedestrian safety, we've been consistently told, wait your turn. This is out of scope, not a priority, or things like that. And I can tell you, like, some of us have been warning that this was going to happen for years. This is not something that is a Johnny come lately thing. And I'm like shaking. I'm so mad about it. And the more I think about it, the more I get angry. And I hope you all are too, because, you know, like I live right off of 8th and Main, right in front of a retirement center. I can tell you the whole week after that happened, I was terrified because I see my neighbors walk every single day, at least a dozen of them with their dogs and everything. And I was like, I hope it's not Jean. I hope it's not, you know, for all of my neighbors basically, right? And the reality is that someone's mother, grandmother, sister, whomever, like, didn't come home that day because the work that we talked about was out of scope. I've personally seen it not only in those two intersections. I've seen at Watson and Hall, that crossway there. We've consistently told the city that. And the best that we've heard is that they can put a flashing light there or something. Kevin and I talked about that with the city. This lax attitude and this dismissive attitude to neighbors has to end. And I'll be honest, I can no longer support the Loop project until this is the highest priority. And I will be a city councilor. You guys know that. This is a thing. And I will not support it because I do not want more pedestrians walking downtown if we're not going to ensure their safety in basic design. And I can assure you, I am 100% for people being downtown. I love downtown Beaverton now. I love what it's transformed into and what it will be with the Loop. But I can't in good conscience ask my neighbors to go walk downtown if we can't even design streets to be safe. So I hope you're all as mad as I am. I hope you're willing to take this fight to the city. And I'm willing to say I'm not supporting the Loop until this becomes the first thing they do and the highest priority. And I hope you all feel that way too. I'm going to stop talking because I really want to hear it from other people, but I'm really upset about this.
Thanks, John. Kevin?
Yeah, I've got some thoughts I'll share in a minute, but I would love to hear from Rachel first, since Rachel wrote the letter, and then I'll chime in after that.
Sure. Rachel, go ahead.
Everyone, yeah, so I wrote a letter to City Council and the Mayor's office because I think I really love the idea of the Loop, but similar to what John said, I really want to see more comprehensive safety plans. If I understand, like Tom mentioned, like they are planning on doing studies, but it's unclear to me, even as a CAC member, like when those studies will conclude, when will the findings from those studies be like digested, and and then when will like actual changes occur to those intersections. So far, I've also reached out to Dan Turk about what sort of the plans are. From the mayor's office, they basically just reiterated that this is a priority, and I asked, what can we do in the short term that would solve some of these issues? Like, maybe it's a matter of like, on Hall, people race down Hall all the time. Maybe it's a matter of like putting better pedestrian, crosswalks out there. Or what are the cheap tools in our toolbox that we can actually do something about before September? My understanding is like after September is when the first traffic study will happen. I don't know how long that study will go for, or when, like I mentioned, like when findings will be made and like when action plans will be after that. So I've asked that of the mayor's office, as well as Dan. And I actually have a call with Dan on Wednesday where I'm going to chat with him some more about what can we do in the meantime. Because like the loop, I think it was Jean who said, parts of the loop could take up to 10 years. And like, this is not an issue we can wait 10 years on. Like, this is something I think the city should be doing something about like yesterday. So that pretty much summarizes the communication I've had so far with City Council and Dan.
Kevin, you still have your hand up. Did you want to say something now?
Yeah, thanks. And thanks, Rachel. I've got some similar thoughts that have already been shared, but I'll tie them together a little bit. I gave public comment that night to City Council, just letting them know that somebody had been killed. A driver had killed a 75-year-old lady in the crosswalk. And I was very, very emotional that day. And I think they could tell my voice was shaking a little bit. And I was just really frustrated, really angry, and really sad, heartbroken by this. Councillor Mark Sansucci responded. He said, I've been in office for 16 years. When I was getting elected, somebody died in this intersection then, and the city still hasn't done anything about it. And I know transportation is like one of his biggest priorities too. Like, we can't wait another 16 years. Like Rachel was saying, we can't wait 10 years. I mentioned to City Council in this public comment, and it's in line with what Rachel was just sharing too, about short-term actions that we could take, and how for outdoor dining that the city opened this year, like the only safety precautions that they added were those orange barrels that are not attractive by any means, but they were there to do the job. And they were able to transform some space outside that used to be dedicated to cars and turned it into safe spaces for people to actually live their lives and support their neighborhood. And when I think about temporary action, I'm thinking about things like that. Like, can we close a lane of traffic or widen some of the intersection, widen some of the bulb outs, what they're called, widen the sidewalks at the intersections so that people have to cross the street a shorter distance. Like, can we use some of these temporary barricades or like construction pylons, or I don't care what it is, but to make that design change, because that can be part of our survey as well to see what can work in the future. Like, we're preparing for this loop project that's going to cost millions and millions of dollars. It's going to be a lot of money. It's going to be a lot of time. And we're not actually testing any ideas first. And I would love to see us do some short-term projects, short-term interventions, whether it's as a city or as a neighborhood of really frustrated neighbors that we have here and that aren't here as well, but to do some temporary installations, to say, okay, well, we closed this turning lane, or we extended this sidewalk at the intersection, and this is what we saw, and we're like, this worked out really great, like, let's make it permanent. Or, all right, this didn't make a difference, then it doesn't need to happen. Like, at least we'll know. And I think the really frustrating thing is we're not seeing the changes. And I feel like almost every time I've heard from city staff, like, the feedback has been analyzing pedestrian safety at these intersections as outside the scope of this project because of the effect that it'll have on the surrounding traffic referring to cars, traffic system. And I think that's really I think it's really short-sighted. I know it's a scope, and I know the scope had to go through all of its different approval processes, I'm sure. But the scope just might be focused on the wrong spots. And like, I'm really interested in these short-term solutions, but I'll stop here too, because I could go on a long time, but I see Rachel's got her hand up again.
Go ahead, Rachel.
Yeah, I had a quick question while we have Officer Bowen here. And I don't know if this is actually something in your wheelhouse, but I thought I would ask anyways. Would it be possible to get red light cameras at those intersections? Like, one of the things like I've experienced as a pedestrian, you know, getting to the NAC station and back every day for a couple years, like it's not uncommon to see people running through red lights up there. Like, what does it take to like even get that done? And is that like a BPD thing, or is that someone else who would facilitate putting those in?
That would fall under state law. The city is limited to, I believe the number is 4 intersection camera systems. I know at one point they had Walker and 158th, and the state made them remove. They had 5, and the state made them remove and bring it back down to 4 because that's what they were capped by state law. So I don't know how they could increase it. If they put one at either of those intersections, they would have to remove it from another intersection, is my understanding. Got it. And so does that mean like every city is limited to 4, or like would it be like under state jurisdiction if like more went in? I don't know for sure. I could kind of guess that it might be based on population. Got it. I think Portland has more than that. And I know Portland has used some of their cameras as they've posted some like permanent speed cameras in specific spots rather than have vans. But I don't know that we can have more. I believe when they first decided what intersections to put them in, it was based on like crash data. And obviously that changes over the years. And I don't know how expensive it is to move the camera systems. So I don't know if it's feasible that they can just drop it, pick it up in a year or two and drop it in another one and then pick it up. I don't know that they have the ability to move it that easily. That's something that's way what I would handle.
That makes sense. That's really great insight. Just like Kevin said, like I had no idea we were limited by state law. Thank you for that. It's really helpful.
Yeah, I'm sure they would gladly put out more if they could. And I think they're capped.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah.
So if I could just ask for a moment, just because I want to be a good conduit for the SNAC to city staff, what specifically are you hoping to hear or wanting to see, or is there somebody specifically you would like to have at this meeting, whether it's a department director, whether it's, whoever? I just want to make sure that I'm communicating the needs and desires of this NAC adequately.
For me, Franziska, like, I'm not sure that city staff are going to be all that helpful. I need decision makers. Like I need to, and maybe that just means this has to happen at city council. Like I've heard, I understand scoping on it. What I don't want to do is just talk about it again with the same, yes, we hear you, we understand you, it's a priority, and then nothing changes, right? Like I think most city staff actually agree with us. They see the deficit, they see the need, and there's nothing or limited things they can do about it until we get some direction. So what I would be curious to hear, number one, I'm not the decision maker here. So you guys tell me if you would rather hear from staff. I'm okay with that. I just like, I don't want to waste any more time. Like I want to know who the decision maker is, and then I want to know how we can get this changed.
That's really helpful feedback. Thanks, John.
Yeah.
Yeah, just sort of to echo that, I think, is there someone that we can work with in the city that can actually help us out? Because I think even if a loop could magically solve this problem, and I think that's debatable whether the loop plans adequately address the safety issues or not. Even putting that aside, it's going to take years. I wouldn't see anything happening at least until like what 2023, but by the time they finish all the planning, the survey, the planning, the construction, all that. So it's also a timing issue, and it just can't wait that long. So is there somebody in the city that can actually help us do something? I think is a real question. And I don't know the answer to that, but that would be, I think, what we'd want. Tom?
I mean, what would the two people that would automatically come to mind would first and foremost be our city manager, who is now in charge of the entire city, and they are ultimately the, my understanding is council and the mayor set policy, and then it's the professional staff that fulfills that policy. So we're looking to address what is the professional staff doing now. I believe in the good intentions of people and individuals, and I believe that our city has gone through the steps to hire the best people to do these things. And what my job as a citizen to do is to give feedback and say, I don't know how to solve this problem, but you do, and I want you to make this part a priority. And if they haven't been making that a priority in the past, and I know that there have been various pedestrian issues that this have gone through this NAC and then have gone through, and we haven't really seen a lot of results from it, then we need to press harder on that. We need to say that these are the priorities in our community and you need to address those. So more immediate than that would I would assume be our traffic engineer, who has the final, that with the traffic commission have the final say about what happens. So getting our messaging to those groups or individuals would be who I would be inclined to see. Okay, if anybody has the answers, it would be those people. And those of you who have more extensive knowledge and interactions with the commissions, the commissioners, or the engineers, I know that there has been a lot of other conversations with them. Then we need to figure out how we, if this NAC is not sufficient pressure, then we need to figure out, do we coordinate with other surrounding community groups? Are there other how do we raise the level of pressure to change the priority? If it's not been a priority, and if previous counselors have mentioned how it was a priority of theirs 16 years ago, how many more counselors do we need in order to apply pressure on the policy side? How many more citizen groups do we need to involve in order to make it a priority? Because eventually, if we can, if it's a matter of the community, then we need to work on our own side of how do we get our neighbors to make this their priority too? Because it's our neighbors that are walking, it's our neighbors that are driving. In some cases, we're our own worst enemy. But as far as immediately, Franziska, to answer your question, I would think it would be either the manager or the traffic engineer.
Thanks for that, Tom. Kevin, I see you've got your hand up.
Kevin, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, I think talking to the city manager, I think would be good so that we can get on council agenda. I think having, I don't know how much time we need. The manager would be able to point us in the right direction. But I think if we actually share our comments publicly on the record to city council all at once, it can spur a good conversation with them. And it can also make our concerns more public. This intersection and this conversation is not something that's just limited to our own neighborhood. I'm running for city council too, and I'm talking with people all over the neighborhoods, and there are several different neighborhoods that each have had their own issues with traffic engineering. And so I don't have a personal desire to speak with the traffic engineer because I've been too frustrated with that. But I think talking to the city manager, letting her know what's going on, and then trying to talk with city council too. I think this would be a couple steps that I think would be good. Oh, and Stephen put in the chat, check the capital improvement plan to see what the funding priorities are for street and pedestrian projects. The city council, it might be tomorrow actually, I think it's tomorrow, is actually reviewing transportation street funding with regards to what's going to be able to be funded for construction improvements over the next like 5 years, or what's just design studies. There's a lot of really good projects there that I think will make a big difference, but they're not like immediate changes. They are in the plan, but that's over a period of 5 or 10 years. I don't remember. But there's some good stuff there. So city's working on it. It's just hard to fund everything that we actually want to see, which is why I think Rachel's point of cheap and quick or temporary or short term is good.
Right. Okay.
Brian,
Yep.
notwithstanding all the sentiments that have been shared tonight, I would be remiss as a colleague not to bring up the email that Jane sent you to bring up for further discussion at the NAC, since there's a deadline associated with that. So I have a sense I know where the conversation likely go, but I wanted to bring it up for discussion all the same.
Right. Yeah, so I was asked to sign a supporting letter for the loop. They're trying to get funding, so they're looking to get signatures on letters that basically just outline the benefits of the loop and being able to, I think, just garner support in that way. So I just got a draft letter today, actually, and I read through it quickly. Before they sent it, they said, you know, we'd like you to send something. I said, well, I'd be happy to look at it. But please understand this. We've just had a discussion about this. We're concerned about the recent fatality, as well as the fact that we don't believe that the loop plan addresses in terms of a solution, and also particularly the time in the time and the safety issues at that intersection. So I've just given a glance of what they wrote for me to look at. I haven't decided what to do about it yet, but just to let you know that that's happened. So, yeah, John.
I think we have one big power here as a neighborhood, and that we represent Central Beaverton. And if you, like, they need our support to get this done. And I'm happy to sign the letter if I get an assurance that pedestrian safety becomes the highest priority. Otherwise, I'm not signing anything. And I would encourage everyone else to do the same. Like I think we can be good partners in trust, but let's get something out of that. I mean, the city owes us. This is our neighborhood. These streets run through our neighborhood. You know, this isn't academic to us. And I think, you know, I understand there's funding and all this stuff that they need our support on. And that signature is going to cost you a promise, is what I think it should cost. A promise to elevate that we need short-term solutions by this summer. And that includes things like light cycling. Talked to Councilor Hartmeyer-Prigg about that already. There's no reason we can't go in and program the light cycles where at those intersections where it gives a pedestrian the light first and gives them 10 seconds and then gives the drivers the green. We could fix that tomorrow if we wanted. It's just priority. And why aren't we doing things like that for those, just as Kevin mentioned, the short-term things? Let's get that done. You give me a promise and then we'll talk, you know, in my mind, then we can support these things as we work towards a long-term solution. I'm not naive into thinking that we can redesign the intersection in a month, right? But we can do some things to make it tangibly safer for our residents while we are fixing it in the long term.
Yeah. No, I'd agree. I come back to it, and I don't know, you guys know better than I do, like who can actually help us facilitate these things, even if they're simple and you know, what you just described, John, you know, they're not rocket science, they're simple solutions, but they make things safer. They don't maybe solve everything, but they make things better. I'm still not, and maybe I'm missing the point, I'm still not clear on that. Do we know who could actually help us get that done, as opposed to just talking about it?
I would guess the council needs to direct the city manager to get it done.
Okay.
or she needs to make the decision herself. I would imagine that that's within her purview. But those are kind of the two avenues. Kevin, Franziska, is that right? Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I would definitely agree that those are the 2 points of influence. Either the city manager makes that direct staff, because she's the only person that can direct staff, or city council implores the city manager to direct staff. But either way, the top of the hierarchy is the city manager. So she oversees, for example, the public works director, who oversees the traffic engineer. So those are kind of the chain of command in terms of who's going to exercise influence in the situation.
Okay.
And just so everybody knows, they're looking for that letter of support by April 7th. So it's totally up to the NAC how you want to respond to that request, but it will need to be responded to in some way in the next couple of days.
All right. Okay.
I wonder if that means we need to go to the city council tomorrow and condition that letter of support on them agreeing to exactly what we just said, to look at by next month, like some short-term solutions for pedestrian safety as we kind of work through the long-term stuff. And if they say no, then we say we can't support it. We don't, you don't get a signature. It's as simple as that would be my recommendation. But one vote here. You guys let me know your thoughts too.
Yeah, makes sense. Anybody else? What do you guys think?
I mean, I like that too. I think it would be good if, I mean, I don't want to be the main speaker. I think they hear from me a lot. But I think it's a good idea.
Okay. This is tomorrow?
Yep, tomorrow.
What time?
5:30?
5:30.
I don't know.
Right. So tomorrow evening.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's their regular Tuesday council meeting.
Right. Okay. I'm happy to go. I think I can go. And/or I'll Rachel, you're probably busy with not one but 2 children. You're very familiar with the issue, so I don't want to preclude you if you wanted to go, or we could both go.
Yeah, let me see what.
It's 6 p.m. tomorrow, by the way.
6 p.m. Thanks.
Sure.
How about if I connect with Rachel offline and we'll figure out one or both of us will go?
Yeah, that sounds great. Maybe we both plan on going.
Yeah.
I think having both of us would be powerful.
Okay.
If you guys are willing to do that, I think that would be really impactful to the city council.
Okay. Okay. That sounds good. Any more thoughts or comments on this issue? I realize it's a complex issue and it's long-standing, so I don't want to shortchange it. So I didn't want to give some time, but at the same time, we do have other things to talk about. But I mean, any last comments, questions, thoughts? Yeah, Stephen, thanks for your comments in the chat. I'll have a look at that. Okay, I don't see, unless I'm missing it, I don't see any other hands up, so why don't we? Okay, all right, well, thanks for everybody's thoughts. I appreciate the discussion, appreciate the thoughts. Rachel, I particularly appreciate the letters that you wrote and what you've shared. You've been very active on this, so thanks for that. So Rachel, I'll connect with you offline and we can plan on tomorrow. So why don't we move on? So I'm going to skip all the other city updates, just in the interest of time. I thought this conversation might take some time. It's been a worthwhile conversation, obviously. So again, thanks for everyone's input. So we'll just move to some of the outside speakers. So Sara and Liz, you're going to talk about Downtown Beaverton Parks and Open Space plan that you guys are working on and you wanted to discuss and present on. So I think I've still got Liz, I see you around. So the floor is yours to speak. And then if you have something to share, please feel free to share your screen.
Hey, Brian, this is Peter Swinton from THPRD. Oh, Liz is right there.
Oh, thank you. I was just going to say thank you. And actually, THPRD will be doing the presentation tonight for this. Yeah.
Sure.
All right, I will share my screen.
Officer Bowen, did you want to say something?
I was just checking to see if anyone had any other questions for me or.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Thanks for staying on. Yeah, any last questions for Officer Bowen?
If anything comes up later, I guess I just route through Franziska, or you can email me directly, Bowen at beavertonoregon.gov, and I can try to answer what I can.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. Yeah, and if there's any updates from, thanks for the point man in the chat. Yeah, if there's any, I'm sorry to cut short Jonathan and Franziska on the updates. If there's anything to share, please email it to Amanda and we can include it in the meeting minutes. So thank you. So yeah, onward. So go ahead and share your screen, folks.
Okay. So, good evening. My name is Peter Swinton, and I'm an urban planner from THPRD, and I'm joined with my colleague, Liana. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi, thank you, Peter. Hi, everyone. My name is Liana. I work for Tualatin Hills Park and Rec District. We're so excited to be here tonight to present about this, this project coming up. But before we do, I think it's really appropriate to just take a minute and acknowledge the tragedy that the neighborhood has experienced and that the weight of that is not lost on this conversation tonight. And so as we start opening the conversation tonight, as we're opening this community engagement for the project and the conversations for this project, we're committed to hearing all of your concerns and questions and desires throughout this input process. So I'm going to turn it back over to Peter, and Peter's going to start us off with a presentation, and then we'll have time for questions afterwards. And if we can't answer those questions, we'll make sure to find someone who can. And we're happy to hear any comments you want to share, whether that's tonight or if you want to follow up with a personal email. We're happy to accommodate and hear those comments however it works best for you to share them. So I'll turn it back over to Peter. Thanks, Peter.
Thanks, Liana. So we're here with you tonight to provide an overview of the exciting Downtown Parks and Open Space Framework Plan to determine how we bring Parks and Rec amenities to downtown in partnership with the City of Beaverton. So the city and THPRD have hired a consulting team comprised of 2 firms, Agency Landscape and Planning and Mayor Reed, to help support the project as well. So as a little background, the Downtown Parks and Open Space Framework Plan, or Framework Plan, it's a little bit less of a mouthful, builds on the last decade of exciting city-led downtown planning and THPRD's extensive community engagement work. In particular, the Framework Plan builds on the Beaverton Downtown Equity Strategy, the Central Beaverton Urban Renewal Plan, and THPRD's award-winning Vision Action Community Visioning Plan that engaged over 12,500 comments from 10,000 community members. Additionally, we want to build on all the great work the City of Beaverton has been doing and bring the things that that the THPRD and the city have heard with respect to Parks and Rec to downtown, including things like art, such as THPRD's Talking Walls, more ways to connect with nature in the downtown, and play opportunities for everyone, like THPRD has been doing at Mountain View Champions Park. So in terms of where we're talking about here, the Framework Plan defines downtown as the area outlined in the orange hash with the orange hashed line. and recommendations from the plan will be focused in that area. To help understand that area though, our team's using demographic and other data from the broader area you see outlined here in gray and green, which contains pieces of neighborhoods that you see, such as Five Oaks, Central Beaverton, West Slope, Highland, Bowes, and Danny Whitford and Raleigh West. Additionally, we're looking to at the existing THPRD parks and open spaces within this area to ensure that we're not recreating the wheel, and we're tailoring the framework plan to the unique conditions and needs within downtown. As for project goals, the downtown plan will build on previous plans and outreach, reflect community aspirations and priorities established through prior and concurrent downtown parks planning efforts. It will describe the types of parks, such as plazas, pocket parks, and natural spaces that you might see downtown. It will recommend general areas for new or improved parks, natural areas, and open spaces. It will identify amenities for an attractive, livable, and economically vibrant mixed-use downtown. It will help determine the look and feel of those amenities. It will work to ensure that all spaces are welcoming, inclusive, and accessible to everybody. And it will outline an implementation strategy with immediate and future actions. Also, I want to take special note of the images you see here on the right. We're hoping that they get community members inspired and excited, really to try to get your imagination on what kinds of spaces and amenities we might develop in downtown. And we're also trying to learn from well-loved and innovative spaces that we see in downtowns across the world. So hopefully that gets you a little excited, and I'll turn it over to Liana.
Hi everyone, again, Liana. I don't know if I mentioned it before, but as I work for THPRD, I specifically work in community engagement. So I'm going to be talking just about two specific pieces: the timeline for this project and what community engagement is going to look like. So yeah, jumping into the timeline. Right now, spring 2022, we are starting community engagement literally this week. So that's why we're here talking to you all. And so as we move forward, we're looking at community engagement in the study of desired park types, activities, look and feel, and inclusiveness. So a way to make these park and amenities inclusive. And we're doing that in a bunch of different ways, but primarily you're going to see us doing that through pop-ups. So pop-up tabling at like farmers market and different events. And then also we'll have a community survey opening soon. And then as we move into summer 2022, we're going to use all of that input that we've heard from the community over the spring to draft a plan and an implementation strategy for bringing parks and natural spaces to downtown Beaverton. And then at that point, that's when we'll review the plan with community members. So we'll go back out to the community and say, hey, this is what we heard. Did we get this right? Are we ready to move forward? And we'll do that through community design workshops and also a follow-up survey too. And then that puts us in the fall for 2022 to revise that plan and strategy based on all the community input we've heard, and then seek approval from both City Council and the THPRD board. And then hopefully by that time, we will have a plan adopted and we'll be ready for implementation. So that's the project timeline, but I want to take a moment to jump back to talk a little bit more about community engagement and what that's going to look like. So what are we asking communities? You know, when we did our big community visioning at THPRD, as Peter mentioned, and then also downtown has done a number of outreach projects to downtown, we really wanted to set this one apart and be very clear and specific about the questions we're asking and how those are different, and really build on those previous outreach processes that we've done. So what we're asking community members for this particular round of engagement is, what types of parks and open spaces and natural areas would you like to see in downtown? What types of activities would you like to do in these spaces? And do you feel like you have ideas about like the design, the look and feel for these spaces and how they would fit into the larger kind of fabric of Beaverton's downtown? And then finally, what ideas do you have to help make these spaces feel welcoming, feel inclusive to everyone? And we did start outreach this weekend. Actually, we had a couple pop-ups at Farmers Market and the Food Cartel, and we had our consultants out asking these questions. We got some amazing answers. We talked to well over 100 folks, so we're already getting some good information. You can jump me to the next slide, Peter. All right, so if you want to learn more about this project right now and you're interested in getting involved, starting to provide input, we would love that. You can sign up for email updates, so you'll get regular email updates through a listserv, and you can learn more ways to get involved at the City of Beaverton's webpage. I'm going to put the webpage in the chat as well. And you can access the webpage through either the city's main page or THPRD's main page. Either one, you'll be able to find it. And I also put it in the chat. So the other thing that you can do to get involved is join us for upcoming events at THPRD, the events we hold at THPRD, but also City of Beaverton events. We're going to be there tabling and talking to folks. So if you're, filling your calendar with those fun events coming up in the spring and summer, look forward to doing those and seeing us there, because we want to talk to you and ask you questions, and we're happy to answer your questions. And then finally, make sure to look for an upcoming survey that'll be opening mid-May and closing in mid-June. And that'll be for this first round of community engagement, things we want to hear from you. And you can learn more about when that's going to come online through the website as well. And then, of course, you're welcome to email us anytime with questions or comments. We're happy to receive those. The best people to contact, I'm going to put in the chat so you have their direct email. And then I think we can go to the next slide, Peter. I think we're good. Yeah, so I just wanted to mention that as we close up tonight, I want to leave room for like questions, comments, discussion. We're happy again to take any comments you want to share tonight. Peter and I are happy to do that. We also have Liz here from the city, so we can answer the questions as well as possible tonight. If we can't answer your questions, we'll be happy to find someone on the team who can. So with that, I'll pause it there and see if there are any questions or thoughts anyone would like to share.
All right, great. Thank you. That was very interesting. Rachel, you had a question?
Hey, yeah, my question is, will the results of this be used to develop new parks and amenities, or for changing existing ones?
That's a really good question. I think I'll go ahead and jump in, and then I'll defer back to my team to see if there's anything I might have missed. So with this plan, the idea is definitely to bring new resources, new park and open space and natural amenities to downtown. But I think there is room for, are there ways that we can improve current spaces to make downtown more available for recreation and connections. And I want to apologize actually to Liz, because what I meant to do was turn it over to Liz for a minute to see if she had anything to add. So Liz, I think I might take a moment to see if you feel like I answered that question adequately, if you have more to answer there, and then if you have anything else to share.
Yeah, thank you, Liana. I would say that there is an opportunity for new and also improved parks and open spaces, because what we want to do is learn more from the public, right, and do this outreach to understand what's really being called for, if you will. We have some really phenomenal spaces that work quite well in our downtown. That's not to say they couldn't be improved though. And with our population having changed quite significantly in our downtown, there have been a number of changes over the last 7-10 years even, that are calling for, I think, really investigating whether those spaces are working adequately and where we need to go with that moving forward to plan for livability into our future. So please do, provide feedback, get involved in the project too, because the community engagement will definitely be shaping the framework plan and the implementation plan that will follow.
Right. Okay. There was a question in chat from Nathan Nate, did that answer your question? That seemed like a similar question to what you had, but or not? Nate, and I think you probably don't have. John.
I was gonna say, sorry, I do see the question. And it's interesting. It's not a silly question at all. Because I think what this is getting to is that THPRD has parks near our downtown, or even perhaps technically downtown, some facilities, right? Like the swim center as an example. And so does the city, because both are actually parks providers technically right now, the city and THPRD. So this definitely is a joint project. We're working collaboratively with the Parks District, and it could be changes or improvements to either one, or new facilities for either one, or joint. I mean, really, that's part of what this work is trying to determine.
All right. Okay. Thanks. Nate, and hopefully that answers your question. If not, just go ahead and put something in the chat. John?
Just really quick, the attendees do have the ability to unmute themselves if they would like to.
Okay.
Cool.
Rachel stole my question. Well, you can steal hers next time. John, go ahead.
Just a quick point, like the city is, particularly in the downtown core, is looking at changing the rules to promote more vertical housing development, changing the vertical housing development zone. So which is good. We need a lot more housing, particularly in areas where the infrastructure is paid off in central Beaverton for sure. I would just think about that, like who are, and maybe this is a conversation to have with the city, but you know, are we going to be requiring, hopefully, family units in those multi-housing, you know, 2 and 3 bedroom units, maybe even more, because I don't want a downtown without families. Like we need to create spaces, and hopefully, what I'm leading to here is that hopefully, as we look at augmenting our park system downtown, we're thinking of families and little ones and having places. You know, if we're moving towards, you know, creating spaces without individual yards and everything, and I think a lot of us are for that, like having options, housing options, right? I think we need to make sure that children have safe places to play, well shaded. It was 117 last summer. So we have to think about that as far as like hot slides and things, you know, just we need climate resilient places for families in downtown. One of the most popular, I walk around downtown all the time, are the playgrounds at Schiffler. Almost, I don't know that even during winter, I see them being used in City Park, the playgrounds there. So I'm not even sure we're meeting the current need, but as we continue to grow in density, I would hope that we're thinking about that and augmenting spaces, particularly safe spaces for families to gather and be, you know, be with each other and play and have birthday parties and things like that.
Thanks for that, John. Yeah, definitely a component of this is making sure that spaces are inclusive and accessible for everyone, and multi-generational spaces is a big component to that.
And I also,
the other kind of thing I would add to that is, I was reading somewhere, and now I'm on the spot, I can't think of it, but there's even some playground designs around neurodiversity, so respecting kids with autism and creating safe spaces like that. And I think that might be an opportunity for us to really push the boundary of inclusion and making sure that you know, we're creating safe spaces for all kids to play. And I would encourage us to think about that.
those are great comments, John. Thank you so much. I'm taking notes as you're speaking, and I just want to reflect back. What I'm hearing from you is how can we make sure that we're including and creating safe spaces for families and children to play and recreate in downtown spaces, and all play and helping to ensure that play areas are opportunities to push the boundaries for inclusion. We really appreciate those comments. Thank you.
Kevin?
Yeah, so I think this can tie in really well with the conversation we're having about street safety. It can tie in really well with conversations we've been having about tree canopy coverage. And I think all that's really good. And I think it can also tie in with the First Street Dining Commons area. John mentioned two parks that are pretty popular. There's a little ramp and a little like tiny playhouse and a couple seesaws on First Street that are very popular. And this is another example of what you can do with just a little bit of money, and just some passion to make a little change. But I think like using that as an inspiration too of like where people want to gather. We got a lot of hot pavement in downtown, and I think it gives us a lot of opportunities to explore where we actually want green space. Yeah, Nathan says his son always wants to go to the dining commons. Yeah, and that's great. So I think this is a project I'm really excited about, but I think there's a lot that it intersects with.
And thank you, Kevin. I definitely captured your comments. I really appreciate it.
Okay, great. Anyone else? Comments, questions? All right. Well, thank you so much, Leanna, Liz, and the group. That was great. Thank you very much. Okay.
Our pleasure. And just so you know, I did put the 2 project manager emails in the chat. If anybody would like to contact them with comments or questions, please feel free to do so.
Yep, great. All right, super. Thanks. Looking forward to see how that progresses. All righty. Okay, we're going to switch gears. We have 2 district attorney candidates who have asked for time to speak. I believe they're both here, or representatives. So Brian, I think you were here. You were here last week and you spoke to us briefly. And oh, Kevin, you're here as well. So hi both. So we'll give you some time to each speak, and then open it up for any questions, if that's okay. So Kevin, I'll ask you to go first, if that's okay. Brian, I hope that's okay. And maybe we can keep it to, I don't know how long you want to speak, but maybe we keep it to about 5 minutes each, if that's okay. And that'll give us time to digest what you've said and ask any questions or make any comments.
That sounds great. Thanks, Brian. Well, hello, everyone. Nice to see you all virtually. And I guess we can tell who's really committed because there's a basketball game going on right now, but my bracket's already broken because I picked Gonzaga to go all the way. Thank you for having me and allowing me some time to speak. I am the district attorney here in Washington County. I'm the current DA. I was elected in 2018. Before I was elected, I served in the Washington County DA's office as one of the line prosecutors. And I spent actually the 10 years before I was elected as a child abuse prosecutor, working with children who've been sexually abused or physically abused or had some crime committed against them. I'm running for re-election as district attorney because my priority is quite simply keeping our community safe. I believe that the role of the district attorney is a really unique role in not just our political system, but in our criminal justice system. And the district attorney has quite a bit of influence over public safety in a particular community. I've seen that from my time serving as a deputy district attorney here in Washington County, from working with children on these child abuse cases, from prosecuting all different types of crimes in Washington County. And now I've seen that over the last 4 years as the district attorney of Washington County. These have been a tough last 4 years. I don't have to tell anyone in the room how difficult they've been for all of us just living in our society and our community. But I am very proud of the fact that we have a very strong and good and positive record in Washington County when it comes to public safety. We are a county that is the envy of many other counties. In fact, our crime rate in Washington County is 30% lower than the state average. We are the safest large county in Oregon, and we're a whopping 50% lower crime rate than neighboring Multnomah County and in Portland. as the district attorney, my priorities are pretty simple. It's prosecuting criminals, it's protecting victims and the public, and it's pursuing responsible reforms. I very much believe that the DA should be balanced and moderate in the approach. I'm nonpartisan. I'm not registered as a Democrat or Republican, and you'll hear in a moment that my supporters are both Republicans, Democrats, independents, non-affiliated voters, et cetera. Because the DA, of course, needs to work to protect everyone in the community. I'm really proud that over my time as DA, we've really pursued some of what I call responsible reforms. I very much do not believe that the system is broken or that the system needs to be torn down and built back up again. I believe in two things that I don't think are mutually exclusive. I think that it's one of the best, if not the best, public safety criminal justice systems in America and the world, that our American judicial system. But at the same time, I believe that we have a lot of room for improvement, a lot of systemic issues, a lot of structural issues that need to be addressed and improved. And I believe that both of those things can exist at the same time. And I'm proud of a lot of the improvements that we've made when I've been DA, things like establishing a domestic violence unit for DV victims, a mental health court for individuals in the system with mental health challenges, a veterans treatment court, which is a specialty court for service veterans. We've established Oregon's first and only diversity legal job fair to help diversify who's in the DA's office working, along with diversifying our legal profession as a whole. And then a lot of community outreach efforts, especially to communities that are financially vulnerable or historically marginalized, so that we can build up confidence in the judicial system. I'll finish by saying my list of endorsers so that you don't have to just take my word for it, but you can think about who has essentially said that they support me. And you'll hear it's a wide-ranging list. So it's every single police chief in the county, the elected sheriff of the county. It's the 10 current and former mayors throughout the county and city councilors throughout the county. And it's some prominent names that are both Republicans and Democrats. So for example, Governor Kulongoski, former governor of Oregon, Democrat, and then commissioners, Roy Rogers, Jerry Willey, Republicans, business leaders like the Washington County Chamber of Commerce, Pat Reeser from Reeser's Foods out in Beaverton, Tim Boyle from Columbia Sportswear, and then a whole bunch of other community leaders, people like Wajdi Saeed from the Muslim Educational Trust, Reverend Matt Hennessy from, who's a leader in the African American community, Shota Zono from the Asian community, Hector Hinoza from the Latino community. So that's a little bit about me. And at the end of the day, I'll finish by saying I live here too. I've got 3 kids and I live in Sherwood. And my goal is just to keep our community safe so that we can all live, work, raise our families here, and no one steals your car and no one breaks into your house. So I'd love to answer any questions that folks might have. Or maybe actually I'll defer to maybe let Brian say his piece, and then perhaps we can open up to questions for both of us.
Yeah, no, I was going to give some time to Brian Decker, and then I'll open the floor to questions for either or both of you. That's okay. So Brian, do you want to speak?
Great. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, fellow Brian. And thanks everyone for having me back. I am Brian Decker. I am running for district attorney in Washington County. I live just down Hall Boulevard in the Highland neighborhood, and spend a lot of time in your NAC area. I am a former federal prosecutor in the Obama administration, and I have been a public defender for 4+ years here in Washington County. I have worked as a lawyer on both sides of the criminal courts, and I believe that we can do better than the system currently is working here in Washington County. I've seen it from many different perspectives and in different jurisdictions, and I've seen the way it's supposed to work, and I've seen a lot of the failures that are happening here in Washington County. My experience as a federal prosecutor included working on things like human trafficking and smuggling, as well as gun trafficking sources against environmental crimes. My priorities as elected district attorney would be several, including prioritizing prevention. I think rather than just focusing on cracking down on crime after the fact, we can look at root causes like addiction, mental illness, and homelessness or poverty more broadly, see them as primary drivers of crime and focus on smart policies that get out in front of them and prevent crime before it occurs, as well as rehabilitating folks who have those problems and helping our community thrive. I want to prioritize serving victims. I believe that everyone who has been harmed by crime deserves to have a voice in the justice system, and that too often the current system bullies or coerces victims or ignores them. And we need to be supporting them regardless of who they are and regardless of what their views are on what happened to them. I want to prioritize ensuring equal justice for all, enforcing the highest ethical standards for the office, addressing racial discrimination, making sure that everyone is treated fairly. And I want to prioritize real public safety and real accountability equally across the board. I don't believe that anybody should get special treatment. Nobody is above the law. Everybody should be treated with equal human dignity. I am as I guess alluded to, I'm a dad in Beaverton. Me in the Highland neighborhood. My daughter is in school at Vose, where I serve on the PTO. My mom lives in the Vose neighborhood, and she watches my daughter after school every day. I want to see our community thrive, and I want to see real justice and real safety for everyone in Washington County. I am very proud to have the support of a wide swath of folks from across the county, including both Republicans and Democrats. I am endorsed by the Washington County Democratic Party. I am also endorsed by the Independent Party of Oregon and the Oregon Working Families Party. I have the endorsement of Safety and Justice Oregon and Pro-Choice Oregon. I have the endorsement of the Beaverton Education Association, the mayor of Beaverton, Lacey Beatty, the several members of the city council, including Council President Mark Sansucci, Nadia Hassan, and Ashley Hartmeyer Prigg. I have the endorsement of several members of the Beaverton School Board. I have the support of a lot of unions and working folks, including Northwest Oregon Labor Council of the AFL-CIO, PCOON, the Farm Workers Union. I have the support of Latino Network and APANO, the Asian Pacific American Network of Oregon, and Washington County Ignite. It's not just Beaverton. I'm being Beaverton centric when I'm talking to my neighbors here, but I have support of city councilors and school board members and other local elected officials and community members from across the broad coalition of people who are hoping to see some change that they desperately need. I am happy to answer any questions that you all have. Thank you so much for having me back.
Okay, great. Well, thank you both. So I'd like to open it up to the board and any guests. If anyone has any questions for either Kevin or Brian or both, yeah, please ask. I don't see anyone.
I just saw Kevin Teeter pop up in the chat saying that he
Kevin
had
just
to
did his
run
back.
out, and that reminded me to thank those of you who have been present today who I also saw within your NAC boundaries a couple days ago, coming out to help volunteer with the campaign. We had a great event, and the First Street Dining Commons was a wonderful gathering place.
Okay. Any questions, anyone?
I just put my website in the chat if anyone wants it, and you'll see actually in Beaverton, you'll see my signs all around the Beaverton food carts. So if you're looking for signs, let me know, and I'm happy to get signs out to you.
Sure. Tom, you had a question?
Yeah, let me see if I can actually formulate what I'm trying to think of right now. Some of this is going to be for Kevin, our sitting DA, but then also I think there should be something here for Brian. I've had previous experiences with friends and family going through a drug court type procedure. I know that it can be very helpful as an alternative to some more traditional prosecutions of those type of offenses. How has, and I know that they have actually had positive effects on people who have gone through them. How has Measure 110 changed the role of the drug court in our community? And do you see if it's been minimized, how do you see the DA's office in this new space of decriminalization and connecting people who are suffering and symptomatic of drug addiction with the services that can benefit them? So I don't know who would like to address that first. Maybe Kevin, and then we'll hear from Brian, if that's fine.
Yeah, I'm happy to start. I don't want to step on toes. Did you want me to start first?
Whomever. I mean, since you're the incumbent and have had the direct experience with it, then I'm curious to see how that's worked, and I'd love to see what sort of ideas that Brian has about it.
My toes are great. Go ahead, Kevin.
All right. Well, it's a great question, Tom. Measure 110 is certainly a very current issue. There was an article, it was either in this morning's or yesterday morning's Oregonian on that very topic, talking about how I think the number is only 1% of the people who have been cited for drug possession under ballot measure 110 have actually sought out treatment. And I think that's a complete failure of that. Obviously, measure 110 had many goals. One of them, a main one, was treatment, and it's really fallen flat there. So I think that work needs to be done to improve it. But to answer your question, we have 3 different types of drug courts that are currently operating in Washington County. One is simply titled drug court. The other 2 are under the heading of justice reinvestment. One is geared toward parents whose kids would go into foster care if the parents went to prison. So we want to avoid doing that. So we try and keep them out of prison so we can keep the kids out of foster care. And the other one is basically a less intensive type of drug court. None of them are impacted by ballot measure 110 because all 3 of our drug courts that we have been operating, and for the longest one for the last 15 years or so, all 3 of them deal with people that were eligible to go to prison. And we essentially are diverting them from prison and keeping them in the community. And usually they're eligible to go to prison because they're committing a property crime. They're stealing something, a car, breaking into a home or a business, stealing identity, or repeatedly stealing, committing those types of crimes. So 110 didn't impact that at all because none of the people that are currently being cited for drug use under 110 are people that would have fallen within the drug courts. That being said, what 110 has had an impact on is people that otherwise would have fallen within the criminal justice system for drug use, for drug possession. So not the dealers, not the manufacturers, just the people using it. They would have been typically cited for either a felony or usually a misdemeanor level crime called possession of a controlled substance. Those people are no longer in the system. And those people are being dealt with outside. So not outside of the criminal justice system, I should say. I was very vocally and still am against 110. I think it was a poorly conceived, bad move And I say that not because I think the war on drugs was succeeding or was successful, or that the system we used to have was a great system. I don't think it was that great at all, to be honest. I think it had a lot of problems. But I think that the system we had is a lot better than the system we have today, where a lot of those people are getting no treatment at all, and many of them are dying from overdose deaths. So I would have been a big fan of, changing and improving our current system before we scrap it all together. It's kind of like, don't demolish the one bridge you have to treatment before you build another bridge to treatment. But to answer your question, no impact from 110 on the drug courts that we run.
Brian, did you want to comment?
Sure. I'm a supporter of 110. I was a supporter of 110 before we voted for it, and here in Washington County, we voted for it 2-1. And I see that as a recognition that relying on the criminal justice system as the one bridge to treatment for a public health problem like addiction has been a failure, and is something that folks want to see access to that treatment go through other avenues. I don't think that looking at the number of people who've gotten access to treatment after 110 through citations is telling the whole story, because the whole point of is to get people access to treatment without going through the criminal justice system. And we have had the legislature approve $300 million that has been freed up because of 110 to go out to treatment programs for not just addiction, but mental illness, housing, a lot of these intersecting issues that people are dealing with. And as of a little over 6 months ago, at least $3 million went out to treatment programs already that serve Washington County in those ways. And this has helped bolster those programs and make them better able to serve people who are just able to walk in the door or pick up the phone and have somebody available for treatment. The drug court programs and other alternative court programs that can deal with problems or any other intersecting problems are a good thing. I'm glad that we have those programs. I also think that we can do a lot better to be maximizing them and maximizing their use. The main barrier to entry into those programs is the restrictions that the district attorney's office sets on who is eligible. They're not set by statute. This is additional restrictions that the district attorney's office decides about what kind of crime that you're charged with will allow you to get in, or what kind of crime you have in your history on your record that will allow you to get in. And so I've seen lots of cases where people look like good candidates, and even judges and probation officers and other stakeholders in those courts are arguing for people to get in, and it's the district attorney's office that's standing in the way and saying, no, this is a person who, based on the past criminal conviction, we think they need to go to prison instead of these programs. I'd like to see that kind of rehabilitation maximized in the system. Even in those cases, as what we're talking about is not the cases where somebody would have been charged with drug possession, because that's simple drug possession of small amounts of drugs is no longer going through the criminal justice system. But cases where it is a property crime or what have you, and the underlying issue is drugs, the underlying issue is mental illness, those are cases where we need to be prioritizing rehabilitation. And if we're not, if we're not maximizing that rehabilitation for all appropriate cases, then we're going to have people cycling back through the system again and again, sometimes with even worse charges the next time around, because their problems are left unaddressed.
Okay, good, thanks. There's a comment, a question on the chat. I don't know if you guys saw it. What do you think about the recall campaign against, I'm not sure who this is, even though I'm a former San Franciscan, Chesa Bodwin in San Francisco. Curious about what your thoughts may be about what is going right or wrong in San Francisco and what can we learn from that for Washington County. So Brian, you want to take that?
Sure. Yeah, I think there's the recall campaign of the district attorney in San Francisco is kind of one of the high profile places where some folks on one side of crime politics are saying that reforms are causing more problems or causing more crime. And there's, you know, I don't think there's a one size fits all approach to reforming the system. I look at places like San Francisco or Portland or anywhere else where they've considered certain reforms and draw some lessons about what might work and what doesn't work. I've also looked at places like other counties in Oregon, like Deschutes County, and across the country, like Northern Virginia, suburban Denver, suburban Chicago, places where they have elected prosecutors who are serious about reform and driving down mass incarceration and addressing root causes, and have done it in a way that has caused great success. The problems that folks see in San Francisco, I think, are pretty high profile, and I think that is in part.
Ryan, we're losing you a little bit. Your Wi-Fi is a little bit spotty, just to let you know.
Oh, okay. It's weird. I was hearing a weird sound outside, like there might be some sort of electrical problem or something. Can you hear me now? Okay.
Yeah, now it's good.
Okay. The truth is there's rising crime in lots of places across the country. There was just a high profile mass shooting in Sacramento, which has a tough on crime prosecutor, and their violent crime is up incredibly over the last year. And we're not seeing a lot of narrative connection between that approach to criminal justice and the increasing crime. And right here in Washington County, we have a 34% increase in gun crime over the term of the current district attorney, and an increase in violent crime more generally. So these are complicated problems that have a lot of causes, and I believe that we need to focus on them as problems and focus on problem solving, as opposed to just sort of jumping to the conclusion that being tough and looking tough will dissuade people from committing the crimes that they commit.
Okay, great. Kevin?
Yeah, thanks, Brian. I think at the end of the day, when you want to judge if a DA is doing his or her job, the first question is safety. San Francisco is a disaster right now. My wife is from the Bay Area, so it's the one city that actually I've probably visited more than any other outside of Oregon. And it is a different city today than it was 5 years ago. Whether it's San Francisco or LA or Philadelphia or Portland, we've seen this trend happening around the country. And it's when you have what I'm going to call an activist DA who gets into a position of power, who promises the world, when many of these things are really not appropriate for a DA to do. So, yes, homelessness is a big issue, but can a DA create housing or create jobs? No. DA cannot do that. Criminal justice reform is an important issue, but is it up to a DA to decide whether certain laws should be prosecuted or not? Is the DA also the legislature? No, the DA is not. So I have a more limited view of the role of what a DA does. I will tell you, though, for a DA to be successful, the DA needs to have the trust and the ability to cooperate and coordinate with the law enforcement partners that are in the community. That's where you see a breakdown in public safety in these cities, where there's a huge disconnect between the district attorney who might be in a position versus the sheriff or the police chiefs or even the rank and file police officers, when they're not working in concert or at least in some element of coordination together, that's where a big disconnect comes. I also think that politicizing the role of the district attorney's office is a big mistake. You'll find, for example, if you look through all of my public statements about various issues in the last 4 years, I only weigh in when there's an issue that has a direct impact either on Washington County or on public safety. I have lots of opinions about lots of issues, housing, jobs, COVID, all that stuff. But the DA wasn't elected to be mayor or to be a commissioner or a state representative. So you'll find, in fact, my endorsers, I don't accept endorsements from groups that I don't think have a connection to either Washington County or public safety. There are some wonderful groups that my opponent has endorsements from, but there are groups that I don't think really have a direct connection to the role of what a DA does. For example, pro-choice. What does that have to do with the role of a DA? Or a party, the Democratic Party? Lots of people are Democrats. My wife's a Democrat. Most people in Washington County are Democrats. But the DA is a non-partisan role where your party affiliation, it shouldn't matter. Just like for a judge, it shouldn't matter. And a DA needs to be there for the Democrats, Republicans, Independents, and everyone else in between. So when you look at these cities like San Francisco that are failing, like Portland, I think that's a commonality that you see there. And that's what really degrades public safety, in my opinion. So I don't know Chase Bodine, but I don't think he's doing a good job. And I hope he does get recalled and he gets replaced with someone who does a better job as DA in San Francisco, because that's a wonderful city that's really struggling right now.
Okay.
Can I jump in for just a second, Brian?
Yeah, guys, we got to wrap real quick though. We're behind, so very, very brief, please.
Sure. Yeah, I think that the district attorney is inherently a collaborative role, and that public safety is a big network of issues that do focus on a lot of other government officials, schools, community-based organizations, and the district attorney is an important piece in that, which means that having a district attorney who can work collaboratively, yes, with law enforcement, but also with other organs of our society that are essential to keep us safe, is a really important thing. And there's not anything neutral about an approach to the district attorney's office that is constantly going down to Salem and arguing for more tough on crime laws and arguing against reforms to the criminal justice system that would promote equity and eliminate some of the harms that the system has historically caused. That is a political act, and what in Washington County has been among the most vocal in doing. So I'd like to see a district attorney who represents our values in that collaborative effort.
Okay, Brian, I'm gonna cut you there. Kevin, did you want to quick respond to that?
Just that I disagree. I won't take any more of your time tonight. Thank you all for the time.
All right. Okay. Well, listen, thank you both. I realize there's probably more to say. I think anyone who's wanted to ask questions, ask questions, but we appreciate your coming here. We appreciate you presenting your views. And so thank you for your time and thank you for the questions. All right.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you again. Okay, we do have one more agenda item. So Steve, we do have a review of a multifamily unit building at Jenkins. I think we can squeeze that in if we can go quickly, please. You guys ready to go?
Sure. Do you want me to go first, or you want Ed to go first?
You guys are, I think you guys are together. There's only one more agenda item on here.
No, we're not together. So
not together. Okay, that's news. I've got you as one combined agenda. So what are we not talking about the same thing here?
No, Steve Sparks is here, I believe, talking about the bond measure. He's here for visitor comment. Ed Bruin is here for the neighborhood review meeting.
Well, the only thing I've got on the agenda that I was cognizant of was talking about the proposed multifamily
Right, and then we have visitor comment after that.
All right, okay, that's fine. If we can put the visitor comment at the end, please.
Sure
Yep,
enough. So
it's at the end of the agenda.
Yep.
Okay. So, hi, everyone. I'm Ed Bruin. I'll try to take as little time as possible because I know we're running late. I thank you for having us at this meeting. I'm not sure if I can share my screen, but I'm going to try.
Able to.
You are able to, for sure.
So we are proposing to develop a apartment building on Jenkins Road. It's basically halfway between Cedar Hills Boulevard and Murray Boulevard. Can you see it on the screen here?
Yep.
There is a commercial building on the site, and we are looking to develop it. So looking at Jenkins Road here, we've got apartments to the west of us. It feels like a housing opportunity. It's between a transit road and a single family low density area. City of Beaverton just annexed it into the city and designated it as a high density residential, which would allow a 60-foot building. We have elected to do a 3-story building, which is a walk-up building without elevator service, basically so that we can keep our rents in a reasonable kind of spectrum for the area, that it's not a high-rise building, it's a mid-rise building. I can show you an image of what we're proposing to do. And again, I won't go through a lot of details. The density allows for 21 to 26 units. We opted for 22 units on the site. Again, we didn't feel like a, let's see, let's go back. We didn't feel like a tower building was appropriate for this stretch of the road here. So we went with a 3-story building. We brought it up to the front of the road or up towards Jenkins so that you have more of an urban frontage along Jenkins. And then we have parking in the rear towards the residential. So there's plenty of space between our multifamily building and the residential lots to the north of us. And again, I don't know that I have time to do a full presentation, but here's Jenkins Road here on the bottom. We've got Cole along the west side, Castlewood to the north, residential to the north of us, more urban frontage on Jenkins. Everything we're doing is within the code guidelines, the design guidelines for the city of Beaverton. We've done a lot of projects in Beaverton. We're a local developer. We feel like this is the right touch for the site. And we just thank you for having this short opportunity to present the project to you. The project will have 16 1-bedrooms and 6 2-bedrooms.
Question in chat. Are there any? Yeah, I was going to ask the same questions. Are there any drawings or renderings?
Yes, there are. So
anything you can share?
I wasn't sure if these went out with the meeting invite, but what we've basically done is we've tried to break down the massing both vertically and horizontally. So there are steps within the building, and we've also subtracted areas of the building as you climb up through it, so that our roof plan is smaller than the base of our building. And we've broken it up into component elements across it to basically provide articulation, change of materials, change of colors, shadow lines, opportunities for residents to be outside at each floor level on roof decks. And so there's communication between the building occupants and the neighbors. So that was one of the moves. I can go through some of the elevations, but they are two-dimensional drawings.
Like open space, typical questions like things like open space, increasing tree foliage.
So yes, on the tree foliage, I don't have the landscape plan pulled up, but there are opportunities along Jenkins Road for plantings, and basically on site parameter. And then we have 2 different common areas for the residents. We got a plaza to the east and a plaza for the west, so that basically you've got your parking lot, and then you've got areas to meet with your neighbors closer to the building. So you can come out here and read a book, or, excuse me?
Really quick, there's still the map showing.
Oh, there's still the map showing. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm going through the plans. So stop share. Let me try. This will help. Okay. Here's our site plan. Here, this is what I was talking about common areas close to the residences. So that, can you see the site plan at this point? Are you looking at this? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Here's when I was talking about articulation on the building and how the roof plan is smaller than the floor plan or than the footprint of the building, and there are outdoor spaces at each level, and the building's kind of cut away, and that adds articulation, it adds shadows, it adds opportunities for residents to be outside their units, make the building feel a little bit alive. The building itself is up along Jenkins Boulevard, so you got the urban frontage along Jenkins, landscaping around the two frontages, and then basically around the perimeter of the site is landscaping. In order to keep the building as a 3-story building, we had to maximize the footprint to get the minimum number of units onto the site. And so that restricted the amount of area on the site we could dedicate towards parks or trees. But we also feel like it helps us get more to a workforce housing rental rate rather than a high-end rental rate. As soon as you introduce that 4th floor, you change the construction types. You change you add elevators to the building. There are a number of things that drive up the rents by going higher. We could have gone to 4 or 5 stories for the building. I also didn't feel like a 5-story building was appropriate next to a single-family neighborhood across the street. Our basic unit plans are pretty simple, a couple staircases and then accessing the units on each floor. And here's some renderings of the parking lot side and the street facing facade. We've got window boxes on the smaller windows. We've got eyebrows that get across the upper windows, and then we have recess decks on each floor level. So again, trying to break down a big long building and make it into smaller components. Were there any questions?
All right, thank you for that. Yeah, questions, Tom? Your hand is up, Tom.
Yeah, there we go. So I'm having trouble unmuting. Yeah, I saw that. I mean, I know that there are parking requirements for the number of units that you're trying to put in. Did you explore at all doing a like a 1st level parking and building above that, building the residences above that? Because I'm just seeing a lot of square footage there that's dedicated to cars living and not people living.
Yes, and that's absolutely right. That is one of the things we looked at. As soon as you introduce structured parking, again, you go to a more complicated construction process. You drive up the cost of building materials of the construction. You also introduce, you're introducing a taller building, a 4 or 5-story building. We could get all the units in that, and we could carve out some more area for landscaping. But the thing we hear the most as developers is cost of our units are too expensive. The cost of housing is too expensive. And so it's a trade-off to try to keep our rents at a price point where teachers or policemen or whatever, more middle class. We absolutely could have done a taller and more expensive building. But in order to get financing for something like that, you have to prove that the rents are considerably higher.
Okay, good. Other questions? Looks like none.
All right, well, I appreciate your time. I know
Thank you.
everyone's
Thank
tired.
you. And I know we squeezed you on time of this, so thanks for reviewing that though. Okay.
Sure. Thank you.
Yep, thank you. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm not aware of the one more issue we wanted to cover, but what was that? Franziska, can you help out?
It's just somebody coming to visitor comments to
Sure.
make visitor comment.
Okay.
So Franziska, did you want us to be, presenting in the visitor comments? And
Yep, that's my understanding. Is it's just coming to share something with the NAC. So whatever you want to share, Steve.
Okay. Well, I'm here to talk about, I'm with the Beaverton School District. My name is Stephen Sparks. And I apologize for jumping in earlier. I'm a city planner and I can't help myself sometimes. And, hearing you struggle with the things that you were, so forgive me for barging in like that. Anyway, again, Stephen Sparks with Beaverton School District, and I'm here to share with you the bond measure that our school board has referred to this upcoming May's ballot. As many of you may recall, back in 2014, the voters passed a $680 million bond. We are currently in the last year of that bond and doing projects, and the need hasn't diminished at all. In fact, we have done a lot of different studies, technical analyses of our buildings, and the need is quite substantial, whether it be seismic upgrades, or just the deferred maintenance that we have, but also a lot of our buildings are pretty old. And what I want to do here is share my screen to show you the webpage that we have for our bond. I'll put this link in the chat so you can look at it at your leisure. I recognize how late it is here this evening, so I'm going to go fairly quick to kind of help you navigate this webpage. Right up here, you can see the projects and what we've done with the bond that's ending. And also here, this is another link that you can take to what we're proposing to do with the bond that will be on the May election. There are lots of different links here for you to explore this webpage. And there's some really good information. At a minimum, I would suggest that you take a look at this video right here. It's about 3.5 minutes, and it gives a really good overview of what it is that we're proposing to do and what the impacts might be if the bond is not approved. Also an overview about how it would impact your taxes and the like. We have 6 main buckets is what we're calling them for these projects. And instead of reading this to you, you can understand what it is that we're proposing to do here. Modernization is the biggest bucket, where we're proposing to replace Beaverton High School and Raleigh Hills Elementary School out on Schultz Ferry Road. There are other schools that we could replace, but these two are in the highest need. There are 2 oldest schools. Beaverton High School is 1915 and Raleigh Hills is 1927. These schools have been added on to over the years, and it's really kind of a jumble of buildings. And if you're in the construction business, you'll understand that there are different codes associated with each one. Trying to have them merge together is also a challenge. And frankly, it's time. We try to have our buildings be at least 75 years old. In Beaverton's case, we're 108 years, 107 years, and Raleigh Hills is 95. So it is time. Under the deferred maintenance here, the district's deferred maintenance is close to $1 billion. And we will continue to do a lot of work here. If we're able to replace Beaverton High School and Raleigh Hills, that will take a lot of the deferred maintenance down as well. So these are projects that are important to the district to maintain the the safety and usability of the buildings, as well as, most importantly, create good learning environments for our students. Something that I think would be really useful to anybody is coming down to these clicks or links right here, where you could go to the specific school. So let's just click on the high schools here, and it'll take you to a page where you can look at each individual school. So since you're Central Beaverton, we'll click on the Beaverton High School one, and you can go through a lot of the design work and what we're proposing to do for Beaverton High School. You can see what our budgets and all our data, and this will be updated over time with informational videos and where we're at, if the bond is passed, etc. You can see with the Beaverton High School, we're proposing to put the building up at the front along Farmington Road, where that big grass field is, and the Merle Davies building. And this would be occupied construction for 3 years. So we would keep the students in the building that they're in right now, and it'd be just like what they did at the Kaiser clinic down the street at BH and Western. So once the building is complete, we then move everybody into the new building, and then we'll take down the old building. So again, to be respectful of your time here this evening, I will not regale you with more projects that we're proposing, but I will just share, here is a calculator for what we assume the estimated tax increase would be to raise what we're hoping to be about $720 to $725 million. And right down here in the bottom is some really good links here. You can just find out what our frequently asked questions are, but you can also ask a question here. We're trying to respond same day, but certainly within 24 hours of any questions that you have. And if you have, if you're a planner like me and interested in materials, we have every single report that we've ever done on here that concerning our, like the seismic reports, the facility condition assessment, the long range plan, things like that. So it's chock full of good information. So with that, I will end, and I am happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Yeah, go ahead, Tom.
What a surprise, I'm asking more questions. Welcome back, Stephen. It's always nice to hear from the planning side of folks. And I gotta say, I went to a high school that was founded in 1814, and I don't see how 1915 is old. Anyway, but I was also in a non-seismic part of the country. The big question that I have about this, I know that the new builds are the primary, the meat of it, and there's a lot of deferred maintenance. Is there a reason that the Fir Grove Elementary School roof was not included in this particular bond measure? I understand there is some issues with it.
Yeah, and with Fir Grove, I know that we are looking, that was a replacement project that just didn't make the cut. We were looking at replacing the whole building. With the roof, we have so many roofs that are leaking right now, and we have been able to, under this current bond, we were able to raise, the bond right now that we passed was for $680 million. Through selling the bonds, we were able to raise almost 120 additional million dollars, which we have plowed into the buildings. And so while Fir Grove may not have been, scored in terms of the highest need for a roof replacement, if we're able to, get additional funds through bond sales, those projects are pretty high on our priority list. So when it comes to seismic work, and student safety, that's always really high.
Right.
And when we get into roofs, it's surprising how much we can improve the seismic scores with projects when we replace the roofs. So that may be a project, I can't speak to it certainly right now, but that is a project that is pretty high on the, we got to figure out a way to do this.
Okay. Just curious. I know I've got kids that are going to go to Vos or that, depending on what the boundaries are in the next few years. So just looking to see what the facilities are going to be like.
Well, I've got boundary changes in mind since I'm the one that does the boundary changes.
Oh, really?
And I don't have anything.
I'll have a conversation with you later.
Yeah, I'm not looking at Vos and Fir Grove right now, but you know,
all right,
anything's possible.
I know they happen every year, so thanks.
Yeah, so just a quick one. So if I had a glance at the numbers. So you say if the bond passes, then taxes go up, but if the bond doesn't pass, taxes go down. And
yes.
If so, there's no option to keep the same amount of taxes and to keep the spend at the same rate as the current bond?
Right.
Rate.
So that has been the traditional model with the school district, is to propose to the voters to renew a bond that is expiring. So the bond expires and it's gone, that's it. Yeah. But a new bond would be approved at the same rate as the bond that's expiring. We looked at that possibility and presented it to our board. And based on the feedback that we received from the public and, you know, from polling and from, you know, focus groups, things like that, there was more support for going for, you know, the approximate 25 cent increase per assessed dollar. Now, of course, a lot of that polling and the referral to the voters occurred before a lot of the economic issues that we're facing here locally and as a nation. You know, inflation wasn't going, you know, up like it has been. So it's possible that if the bond doesn't pass, the board can step back and, you know, reconsider its options. Maybe it's to come back at a future election with a smaller amount, and that would mean a reduced program for projects.
Okay, thank you. Okay, any other questions from anyone else?
There was a question in chat about you know, having the building close up to Farmington. Yeah, that's always a concern in terms of having you know, a building close to a what is an arterial road with, I think it's an ADT of around 40,000 vehicles. So you know, we do have design you know, ways to deal with it. Also, that site slopes a little bit from, you know, where the building is right now. So part of it is raising the foundation. So students will not be sitting at street level. They will be a little bit higher. But it's certainly a design issue that we're considering, is how to create that, you know, that strong structural, just so that, you know, with vehicles in the area, we don't have vehicles launching into a classroom.
Okay. Great. All right. Thank you. Anyone else? Any other questions? Okay. Well, thank you very much. And sorry to squeeze your time. We just
that's quite all right. And I would,
appearance,
in terms of going to the city council about the road work that you have, I really encourage you to look at the comprehensive plan, because that does establish policy for the district, and going to, or for the, you know, for the city, and going to the city council saying, hey, this is what your comprehensive plan says. That means something.
Right.
Yeah, it's a good idea. Thank you for sharing that. Okay. All right.
Always a pleasure seeing you, Stephen.
All right.
Well, with that, I will adjourn the meeting, and thanks everyone for who stayed extra time. Sorry for running late, but I appreciate you staying late, and I appreciate everyone's time. So thank you very much.